That's right. My dad always told me middle age is when you lose hair in places you want it and you grow it in places you don't.
Oh. That's why I tell people I can grow hair, just not where I want it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we are all going to struggle. And how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. What is going on? My name is Pete, coming to you from a little town called Heartland, Vermont. And with me is my friend and now very regular contributor, Mr. Brian Fortier. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, Brian. What is going on a mile away from me at at the other side of town in Heartland?
Pretty good going over here.
Nice. As the listeners of this show know, when I record the show, it's shortly after I have dinner with my family. We record this during the week. I'll have dinner with my family and tuck my daughter in bed and then come running down to the basement in the little recording studio I have set up, and then we hit record and go. And tonight, just before I came down here, I was having dinner with my daughter, and my daughter said, "Daddy, are you going to tell the listeners in the podcast that tonight is the night before Halloween?" If you are a 9-year-old, like the year centers around Christmas and Halloween. Like Halloween is such a big deal when you're 9, and the anticipation for it for the last month has been intense. And I said, "You know what, LJ?" I said, in the podcasting world, there's this thing called an evergreen episode, and just like a pine tree that never changes color, that we try to do what are called evergreen episodes. And evergreen episodes are episodes that don't focus on a specific time of year or a specific current event. It's that anybody could listen to that episode at any point during the year and it would be relevant to their lives. And she said, "Yeah, but you got to tell them that it's the night before Halloween." I said, "Do you want me to let the listeners know that it's the night before Halloween?" She said, "Yeah, I think you should." So I said, "Well, do you know what tonight is?" And she said, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, where I grew up in Massachusetts, the night before Halloween was Cabbage Night." And she said, "What's Cabbage Night?" And I said, "That's the night that you pull all the pranks or the tricks, and then on Halloween, you go and you collect the treats." She's like, "Well, what's the history on that?" I said, "I actually don't know." So we looked it up, and lo and behold, back in the day, the night before Halloween, people would go out into the night to try to scare away the spirits, and they were called night stalkers. And what they'd do is they'd take cabbage and they'd sprinkle it around or throw it on the doorsteps of the houses to scare the spirits away, so the spirits wouldn't, get the people in the houses while they were sleeping. And over time, those night stalkers started to play pranks on their neighbors. So Cabbage Night became known as the night that you pull pranks or the tricks, and then on the Halloween you get the treats. And when I grew up, and where I grew up in Holyoke, Massachusetts, Cabbage Night was a really big night for us. We did a lot of pranks. Brian, you'll be able to remember this, but when I was coming up, every house, at least in my neighborhood, had a TV with a cable box, and every cable box had the same remote. So we used to grab the remote and go into people's windows and change their channels while they were watching TV. And then they'd they'd change it back, and then we'd change it back, and then we'd change the volume and we'd mute the TV. And we were in middle school. We just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And then we'd steal people's pumpkins, and we'd, just cause all this mischief. We thought it was really cool to write "for sale" on someone's car window with a bar of soap, like all these different things. But Cabbage Night was a night that we really enjoyed growing up. Was that a thing where you grew up here in Vermont?
When I was a kid, go around town, and anything you had left in your yard, the next morning you would find in the center of town.
In the center of town.
Yeah. But what happened was a lot of people, they found that was a way to get rid of some of their trash.
So kids would go around the town and take like pumpkins or for sale signs or whatever, anything that was in your front yard, and just toss it like in
the center of town.
In the middle of town. Yeah, our town kind of goes through a major intersection. Keep in mind, it doesn't have a stoplight. That's how major it is.
Yeah.
And that's where people would throw stuff. That's funny.
Yep. If you left your push lawnmower out, you might find it in the center of town.
That's it. So night before Halloween, you have to put your stuff away.
Yep.
So I think I might have been in 7th or 8th grade, and we were out trick-or-treating on Halloween night, and Halloween was a big deal for me. up and through middle school, we would literally leave the house shortly after school got out with pillowcases, empty pillowcases. We'd come home with those pillowcases 3/4 full. I mean, so much candy and hours and hours and hours trick or treating. I'm not a big candy eater, but I've always been pretty competitive. So like my goal was just to fill that pillowcase up. I mean, I wasn't even strong enough to carry that thing by the time it was so full. Anyway, we were out trick or treating one night and we walked over to a house and there was some really loud music going on. And we banged on the door and this was in a neighborhood where like trick or treating was a thing. Like everyone was out and about, stuff going on. And we bang on the door and nobody answers, but we can hear like loud music inside. So we bang on the door harder. And as I recall, and I'd love to chat with my buddies about this, but this is my memory of how this went down as a 12 or 13-year-old kid. The door opens and these dudes that are like in their early 20s, college age, open the door and we're like, trick or treat. And they're really confused. They're like, is it Halloween? And we were like, yeah, trick or treat. And we had costumes and everything. And they're like, oh, yeah. Hold on. We got something for you. And they close the door. So we just stand on the stoop waiting for the door to open back up. And the door opens back up. And I remember exactly, one of us got a part of a broken CD. Another one got a couple like rubber bands. And I think some other of us got like a handful of raisins, not like in a box or anything. And they had no clue that it was Halloween. And looking back, I didn't realize it when I was 12, but they were incredibly inebriated. Yeah. So they close the door and we walk away and we're like, yo, yeah, it's not cabbage night anymore, but like, yo, let's like, they just give us broken CDs, raisins, and rubber bands. Like, let's get them. So as I recall, we went and we got a roll of toilet paper or two and we start toilet papering the crap out of the front of the house. And the thing about toilet paper, and when you did that at this time of year, was all the condensation at night would get on the toilet paper, and the toilet paper was like almost impossible to clean up in the morning. So if you toilet papered someone's house in late fall in New England, the owner of the property would really get upset because the toilet paper was really, really difficult to like pull off the bushes and the wet grass and all the stuff. So we're toilet papering the crap out of this front yard, and these dudes come running out and they start chasing us. And they grab my buddy, Tim Bagg. He listens to the show. He'll know exactly what I'm sharing right now. I actually called him right before the show to get the facts right from his perspective. And we all run and hide. And we watch from like behind the trees and the walls that we're hiding behind. They pick him up and they drag him into the house. And we didn't know what to do because we're like, 12, 13, it's the 90s. Like nobody has like cell phones or video or anything. And I don't know how long it was that he was in that house, but I recall it being like a while. And when I chatted with him right before the show, he's like, dude, I felt like I was in there for 3 years. He goes, I think I was probably in there for like 20 minutes. If I had to guess now, I'd say he's probably in there for closer to like 10 minutes. Anyway, they take him. This is a true story. They take him and they tie him into a chair. And they put his head next to a speaker, and they turn up the speaker. And actually, I don't think it was a speaker; it was an amp, like an amplifier. And the dude was playing his electric guitar as loud as he could in my buddy's ear, and they were holding him down, and they were holding him in this chair, and while this dude's playing his electric guitar, and then they're forcing him to drink beers. He's 12 years old. He's never had a beer in his life. They're forcing him to drink beers, and they're blasting this music, and they get him tied up in a chair. And I didn't know any of this was going on. And I was just outside the house, like, what do I do? Like, do I go get my parents? Like in the 90s, you didn't go get your parents, that kind of stuff. And my buddies are like, yo, like, what do we do? Like, I'll sit here and wait. So it felt like forever. I think it was 10 minutes. He thinks it was closer to 20 minutes. They open the door and they just like shove him out, and they send him out, and he comes running out. We're like, yo, we're over here, like hiding in the bushes. I was like, we're like, yo, what happened? And he's like, he told us exactly what happened. I was like, no way. He's like, dude, you wouldn't believe how loud that amplifier was in my ear. Like my ears are still ringing, all this stuff. So yeah, that was our eighth grade year, because he goes off to, this is great. He goes off to high school the next year, and come winter, he goes to his first ski team practice. And his ski team coach for his high school is one of the dudes that held him to the amplifier, was playing the guitar. So good. So good.
What are the
Yeah.
odds?
Yeah. So my daughter wanted for me to talk about something having to do with Halloween. That was by far the most memorable Halloween night that I've ever had. And I've had a lot of memorable Halloween nights, but that dude was in there getting cranked on by those older kids. And it was a full on keg party. Like we didn't know I didn't know what a keg party was, and I was in 8th grade, but yeah, as I was just talking to him, I was like, yo, it was a rager. They had so many people there. The music was so loud and everyone was so intoxicated. And they had no idea that it was Halloween. So funny.
I have nothing to compare to that.
Oh man. Yeah. The more people I talk to, the more I realize that my childhood I got a lot of stories. I got a lot of stories.
So random.
So random. Yeah. So when you think about like things getting under our skin, like we were a bunch of like, middle schoolers, like, yo, if you're not gonna give us candy for Halloween, we're gonna toilet paper the crap out of your house. Turns out the parents were out of town and the boys were just having a rager. So there we are. Yeah. So I'm gonna loosely tie that to tonight's topic. In my classes, we've been talking a lot about like little things that get under our skin and what gets our attention and how we deal with these little things. And I thought it'd be really fun to have an episode, Brian, tonight where you and I just kind of chop it up and talk about the little things that get under our skin. Maybe not like, getting crappy gifts for Halloween at someone's doorstep, like broken CDs, rubber bands, and a handful of raisins. So we'll kind of shift the conversation to our lives presently. We've been talking a lot about in my class about when those little things come. So like there's daily annoyances that happen in our lives every day. Oftentimes we know that that's going to happen, right? So I put it in high schoolers terms like, when you're walking from your first block to your second block, you're going to pass your ex in the hallway. And you like that feeling of dread, that anxiety as you just walk past that person, but it's going to happen every day because it's inevitable. It has to happen. And how we navigate those things that regularly are frequent in our life and really annoy us or get under our skin or frustrate us, I think recognizing those and then like thinking how we're going to navigate those in a better, more purposeful way, maybe even a more positive way, I think is a helpful thing that all of us deal with. So I asked you to come tonight, Brian, with some ideas and some things that are little things that in the grand scheme of life with the 29,000-foot view are not that big of a deal, but they're little annoyances to you. And I thought it'd be neat for the listeners to hear some of the things that bother you and that bother me. And that I think when it's someone else's life, it's easy to say, oh, how does that person get bothered by that thing? But when it's your life, it's, this little tiny thing drives me crazy.
Well, I have one that happened just today. We have some folks that were going to be starting to redo a roof on our barn here in the property. And I don't know if the listeners know, I live next door to my parents. And so we share this barn building where I park my car, my truck. And so they've had their staging set up for over a week or so. And I said to my father, I said, will you please let me know when they're going to be here? Because, I park my car in there, truck in there, and I want to get it out before they start so it doesn't hold me up for a day. And today is one of my days off during the week and giving myself a chance to sleep in. And so I'm in bed, I'm kind of awake, and I realized my phone was ringing, but I didn't get to it in time. I saw it was my father. I was like, and I can hear noise now outside. And I look out, and there's 4 vehicles in our little driveway. And they're here to do the barn roof because he said they'd call the day before to let him know they'd be here so he would let me know. And it was exactly what I was dreading, like for us to be boxed in. So I get up, I'm getting dressed, I'm seething with anger. I'm like, you've never known me.
You're fuming.
And I'm like, oh, it's like, I texted my father and, he said something. Oh, he said your voicemail isn't set up, whatever. So I get dressed and I'm walking out there and I'm like, I could cut around the bushes and just sneak in the door. And I'm like, no, I just walk through them and say hi and good morning, and be cordial. Well, as I get up on them, I see they've actually opened the side of the barn door because they're plugging stuff in to use. And so as I'm walking over, I said, oh, wow. I said, I didn't realize guy opened my door. I said, I hope you're here every day doing this now. And I couldn't believe I went from being so mad to finding a way to create humor out of it. And it turned my attitude right around because I was as madder than you've ever seen me and frustrated. And I just laughed in my head. I'm like, how did that change so quick when I was so angry?
Yeah.
Because that's the way I started my day,
Right. Yeah. Recently we had a clinical psychologist from our school district on, Dr. Slamman. That was an episode that you were not on, Brian. And he talked about how oftentimes we as humans think, well, I react this way because this is the way I'm wired. I was born this way. It's always going to be this way. And we talked about like responding is something that we can train ourselves to do, or something that we over time that we can work on to be better at. And I think what you just described there is a great example of, at one point in your life, or at least if that same thing happened to me, at one point in my life, it would be rage, and it wouldn't be flipped or fixed by a simple joke,
Yeah.
and it would take time. And I think that's one thing that, hopefully the takeaway that the listeners can get from tonight is when these things happen, we're usually pretty hot in the moment, right? But like, we know that by the end of the day, we'll probably be over it. So the sooner that we're over it, the better our day is going to go. Your story reminds me of a time that before I was married, I was living with my buddy. His name is Jabe, Jabe. He owned the house, and I rented a room from him, and he and I were good buddies. I remember one day we're sitting in the living room watching a movie, and all of a sudden we hear boom, 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 boom. It sounded like a plane crashed in the front yard, and I was like, "What was that?" And he stops and he pauses and he pulls the curtain. He looks out the window and he just starts dropping one F bomb after another. I told him not to F and do this. Why the F would he do this? I told him. His dad, who's a classic New England farmer, classic New Englander through and through, just backed his big old dump truck down our driveway with our cars on the end, like on the inside of it, the driveway, and dumped 3 cord of wood right in the center of the driveway. And it was right in the middle of the winter. So there was already, like, the thing had already been plowed. So there's only like one way in and one way out with banks on either side. And he was so mad. He was so mad because you have to move 3 cord of wood to get your car out. And so we paused the movie and he's like, and I was like, yo, like, it's all right. Like, let's look at this as like a workout. Let's just go as fast as we can and move that wood as fast as we can. And it's all snowing. You don't really have anywhere to put it. We weren't going to stack it, but we just kind of chucked it in a pile off to the side. But it was the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh. And we got out there and we had a good time, like tossing the wood around. And luckily we were in our 20s, so we had like time to do it. But much rather be watching the show. But yeah, it's stuff like that, like little stuff that it happens in our life, and like how we respond to it makes us who we are. One of the little annoyances that I have, one of my pet peeves is I really, I really struggle with when I get in my car with my phone, how sometimes the phone automatically connects to Bluetooth in the car and sometimes it doesn't. And then I have a cord in there and I plug my cord into the phone for the Apple CarPlay. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And like it seems to me like there's no rhyme or reason. There's no consistency to it. My rule is like I don't fiddle with it while I'm driving. So like once I start driving, but sometimes I'll start driving. I'll be like, oh no, I can fix it. And I'll like try to grab the cord, and like fiddle around with it, like what's loose or what's wrong. And 2 mornings ago, I was super late for school. I normally leave before my daughter and my wife leave for school, but I was super late for school, and they had already left. And I went out with like 2 handfuls of stuff. There's one day of the week that I bring a bunch of food in for my students. I bring healthy snacks in for them to eat during the week. And I had that, and I had an extra computer that I was bringing, and a coat, and a bag, and my lunch, and all these things. And I put all my stuff down. And when I get into my car, I only put my phone in one place. Like it only lives in one place in my car. So I start to pull out, and I was like, oh crap! Like my phone's not where I normally put it. I was like, oh, I must have left it in the house. And I only put my phone in 2 places in the house because I'm really good at misplacing stuff. So I'm trying to be systematic about where things go. So I checked the 2 places the phone goes in the house. No phone anywhere. So then I just started scouring the house. I was like, I just looked at my phone like couple minutes before I left the house. Where could this thing be? So I grabbed the landline, and yes, we are. Do you know that less than 20% of households in the United States now still have landlines? We're one
Wow.
of them because the way that our internet is set up, you just can't have internet without a landline, which is
Hmm.
just a racket. They get an extra $21 a month out of us. So I grab the landline and I call the phone, and I'm like listening. I can hear the phone ringing. So I'm like walking around my living room, can't find the phone, but it's like muffled. So I'm looking under couch cushions, and I never even brought my phone to the couch. And my daughter has like blankets piled up on the couch. You're laughing so hard you can see where this is going. So then and it only rings a couple times before the voicemail picks up, and I can't locate it before the voicemail picks up, so I have to call it back again. Then I go upstairs. I was like, maybe I could just hear it faintly. I go upstairs. No, I can't hear it. I go into my daughter's room. No, I can't hear it. I go back to the living room. It's so faint. I'm flipping over cushions. I'm so late at this point for school. My car's running in the driveway outside. I'm like, what is going on? And this, I know how long this took because it took 9 minutes. I did this, and then I run out to so then I go out to my car to like turn my car off. Dang car. My phone is in the car, and it's through the speaker and the Bluetooth in the car. It's ringing, and that's what I was hearing while I was in the living room, digging under the cushions, thinking that the muffled sound was the sound in the living room, but it was a muffled sound because it was out in the driveway, and I was hearing it through the window. The phone was actually in the car, just in a different place, connected to the Bluetooth that was ringing for me to hear all the way back inside the house. And I was so frustrated.
9 minutes of your life you'll never get back.
Oh my gosh, it's like one of those things. Like if you can't cry, you may as well laugh. And I was just so frustrated. And I just got in the car. I started laughing to myself. I was like, "Yo, like I'm gonna learn from this, hopefully, but there's nothing I can do about it now. So I'll just chuckle." So
You learn something new
connecting my
every day.
Bluetooth to my car is one of the things that drives me crazy.
Yeah, I was just telling my buddy Ian the other day, "God, you learn something new every day," you know.
Yeah.
Well, I know some people have shared with me how where they drive where there's more traffic where they live near the cities, and one
There
person
couldn't
I
be
know
more traffic than more traffic than Heartland, Vermont, is
well,
there?
I know that big intersection down there.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. But they actually drive to work with no radio on. Like, remember you said you used to do it?
Oh yeah.
And his friend, he talks out loud about his day and what he's going to do and how it's going to go, and being positive about it. And because it's something he does because while he's in this traffic to keep him from getting stressed out about the traffic, he
Really?
focuses on his day. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Boston, and it blows me away the amount of time people sit in traffic to and from jobs that they hate. So it's like having a job that you hate is enough, but to sit in traffic both ways to do it, that's wild. That's so far beyond my level of comprehension.
Yeah. Or even want to understand.
It's crazy. But I was reading a book this summer, and the book was saying that traffic is such a great time to practice being present and being mentally strong because just everything about traffic is outside of your control.
Yeah.
And it's a really good opportunity. So when traffic happens, and there's been a ton of construction around here in the last 6 months because summer is construction season in Vermont, right? And there's just been a lot of sitting and waiting. I sat and waited for 12, 12 straight minutes. The car didn't move, and then I was 18 minutes late to my dentist appointment because I was stuck in traffic for another 6 minutes somewhere else. Yeah, there's been a lot. And so now I am shifting that mind to be like, all right, here you are, Pete. You're in traffic. What are you going to do with this? And I absolutely love the Eminem album that came out 2 months ago. And so like, and he raps so fast, and before you can like understand what he's saying, he's already moved on to the next thing. So it's really difficult to like stay with every word through the songs. So like that's a great time for me to like really, really focus in on every lyric that he's saying because my mind isn't on the road or anything. So like that's one strategy that I'm using is like do a deep dive into like what really, really be intentional about the music that I'm listening to while I'm stuck in traffic, but also just testing myself and being like, yep, this is outside of my control. I can feel my blood starting to boil a little bit. I can feel my heart rate getting up. You know, you can see the person in front of you, they're like fidgeting in their car. I think it's a really good chance to practice mental strength and mindset in traffic.
Well, I've always said, at least for me, I can watch how people drive, and it tells me a lot about their personalities and where they're at. And where I'm getting at with this is my kids would attest to this. When they were younger and we'd be driving down the highway, you know, cars come barreling up behind you and you're in the passing lane, only going as fast as the guy in front of you. You can't go any faster.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what I would do is wash my windshield so it would spray over onto their windshield and piss them off and back them off. It's to the point that when I would actually use the windshield washer fluid to clean my window, all four of my kids would turn around and look behind us to see who was behind us.
They loved it.
I used to joke, I don't get road rage, I cause it. But, you know, like you say, it frustrates you when people do that, right? But that's how I passively aggressive with it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they'd usually have an out-of-state plate.
Yeah. Oh man, I just drove home from my daughter's gymnastics an hour ago, and I was coming down the off ramp, and there was someone with a New York plate going up the off ramp onto 91, and they saw my headlights coming down, and they stopped, and I stopped like 50 yards to give them some space, but I did a 3-point turn and went back down the off ramp
Oh
in
my
the proper
God.
direction. Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's like it was a New York plate. I wonder if they're so closely looking at their Google Maps, they're not actually looking at like the signs on the road that say "Do not enter" and those types of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
This is tourist season up here, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah, because I think about it quite a bit because I use that maps like that way more. You never used to have it because we didn't have it, you know? We actually used
Yes,
to use a map.
my question is, when are road signs going to be completely obsolete? Like they won't even. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. When are road signs going to just not exist? Like towns and cities are not going to waste money making them because nobody even looks at them. They're just looking and listening to the digital directions that are, in real time in their car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there are none. And then maybe like the billboards are going to pop up on the Google Maps, right? Instead of like the real billboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Well, I know working at Toyota, there's some cars that have the heads-up display now. Looks like it like puts a little thing on your windshield in front of you, shows your
Oh
speed, the
wow,
road signs, and if you have your directions in your maps, it shows you ahead of time where your next turn's going to be and which way.
wow. Yo, so my windshield cracked this summer, and the guys came. They're like, "Yeah, that's a minimum of $1,200." They're like, just letting you know, like with the technology in the windshields, like so long are the days you can just replace a windshield for $250. Like
Yeah.
you're talking $1,200 minimum because of all the technology in the wind. And I bought the bare bones minimum option for the car, but it's got the collision recognition and all these different things, and that goes through. Ultimately goes through the windshield. So they're like, yeah. And then they have to, when they set the windshield, they have to calibrate it and take it for a ride and get it all set up. It's not just like pulling one out and sticking one in anymore.
Yeah.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be one of mine. So in the last month, I had mice do $1,200 damage to the cables inside the engine. And then I replaced the windshield for $1,200. Luckily, they were both under insurance. But yeah, that's like that stuff that's completely outside of my control. And I'm just like, it's so frustrating. And I'm so much better when I know what the price of something's going to be
Yep.
than if I just show up and I just have to like pay it on the spot. So I always liked a little bit of time between when I find out what it's going to cost and when I actually go and lay the credit card down.
Hmm.
So I'll, like when they'll call and be like, "Oh, your truck's ready," I'll be like, "Can you tell me how much that is?" And they'll tell me. So then like I have a half hour, an hour, use a school day to like digest it and process it, and then go in and pay. But that's definitely one that gets under my skin is like when there's a term for it. My buddy Doug talks about all the time, but when you expect something's going to cost something and then it costs something different, the value of it changes, right? So if you think something's going to be really expensive and it's a lot cheaper than you thought, it doesn't matter if it's a good deal or not. In your mind, it's a good deal, so it's no big deal. Like what you're willing to pay versus like what something actually really costs don't always line up,
Yeah.
and it's interesting how that plays out.
Yep. Yeah. I think we were talking about with things that trip you up during the day. It's your mentality about it too. Like you were saying, like it's what you put in is what you get out. If you're always putting in humor and finding the light side of things, you're going to find the light, positive side of things. If you're just putting in that "woe is me" kind of a Eeyore mentality, oh, here we go again. it's the same issues. We all go through them every day. But
Yeah.
how do you?
Right. Yeah. We see what we seek, right? If we're seeking that frustration, negative ER mentality, that's all that we're going to see. We're going to see the gray sky. We're going to see the frustration. We're going to see the different things. Yeah, I agree.
One of the things that goes beyond that for me too is when I see people negatively trying to affect things that are going positive because that whole misery loves company thing with their attitude, they're going to try to make everyone else sort of have a negative attitude. It's like that's their way of controlling their life and around them, and that frustrates me seeing people purposely trying to create things for you or for me is what I'm talking about. Those situations is like how do you move on from those people when they're right in your face? And I mean that's got to be what a lot of young people go through in school. You're going to go through it your whole life, so what you're talking about with your class and they're discussing it. It got me thinking about that. That's your whole life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a paradigm shift one time when I remember exactly what it was, but I was interviewing for I was trying to get into a grad school, University of Massachusetts, and it was a really long application process. But you had to go there for a day with a group of other people that were also applying for the program. They only took a couple people into this particular program each year. And by a couple, I mean like a dozen. But there was like 24 of us, and we were sitting in a room, and they were one at a time calling us in and just like give us like a quick interview or like an introduction, it was like a team of 3 or 4 people, and we were all just sitting there waiting for our names to be called. And I just remember like looking over to these people that I was competing against to get into the school, which I did not. Ultimately, they beat me out. They were better than me. But I just remember being like, oh man, like waiting this long sucks, doesn't it? And they were like, yeah. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I just tried to connect with someone through a very negative approach. And then I started thinking back, like oftentimes you'll be somewhere and someone will connect with you that you don't know, like complaining about the weather or complaining about stuff that's going on in the world. And I thought that was really interesting how oftentimes people connect through negativity, right? Oh, same old, same old. Oh, living the dream. Oh, and it's like, it's
Same
interesting how
stuff,
we
different
as,
day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Same circus, different clowns, um, or same clowns, different circus, however you want to look at it. I realized, I was like, wow, like I didn't realize this, but oftentimes human beings that don't know each other or that do know each other often connect through misery. Like you just said, misery loves company. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna switch this. Like I'm gonna be the guy who strives not to connect through negativity. It's not always been easy, but it's kind of neat. Like when someone's like, "Oh man, like the weather just sucks today," and I say, "Oh yeah, that is true, but I absolutely love my raincoat. Like I have a dope raincoat, or I love running in the rain because the way the rain hits me in the face makes me feel like I'm running really, really, really fast."
Yeah.
And so much of it is just that mindset shift. It's a really powerful thing if you're willing to go there and think about the ways that you go about navigating those little challenges.
Yeah. But yeah, it's those negative situations and how you overcome them because they're going to be there. Oh, I know I was going to say the guy. So I decided when I got my truck out, I'm like, I'm going out for breakfast. Something I haven't done in a long time. So I'm sitting at this counter by myself, and this guy comes in. So he sat down next to me, and I'm still kind of stewing over the whole thing going on back at home. But it's like, say hello, Brian. And we did just what you're saying. We had a big conversation, and he brought up the rain and the weather and how he had stuff he had to get done that day. And I said, well, hopefully it'll clear up for you. He goes, yeah, even if it doesn't, we really need this rain. It's like seeing him finding a positive and out of a little negative where he had other plans. That's what I say. It's everywhere. It's every day. And then we had a good long talk about the weather and different little fires that have been around Vermont lately, which you hardly ever see this time of year. Those usually happen in the spring, not the fall. We usually have more rain.
Yeah. And I do think, and I've talked about this on this show in the past, but I do think there is a difference between just like blind toxic positivity and being real. So like, so just like saying, well, we need the rain just to like make yourself feel better about needing the rain. But like, actually, no, like we actually do need the rain.
Yeah.
Searching for the real response to persevering through the situation, not just saying a bunch of Pollyanna crap to like make yourself or the other person feel better. I think that there's so much value in that. Just not, and I think when people are just that endless like Pollyanna positivity, they're hard for other people to relate to, and it's hard to connect or feel connected with those people. And when you're persevering through this, is not like, what aspect of this can I focus on that is helpful, not just some fake positive thing to make me feel better in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Where the rubber meets the road.
So I have a couple from my regular day that just like I find myself like in a frustrated state of mind. And if I like boil it down, I can work through them, but I know they're coming again. And I'm just like, all right, like I need to be better suited or better prepared. So 5 days a week, I get up at 5:30 and it's dark. And I really, really don't like getting up before the sunrise. I feel like there's this like natural circadian rhythm to like wake up with the sun and go to bed with the night. And to get up hours before the sunrise is just not something that my body and mind like to do. I just wake up in such a better state when I wake up with the sunrise. And that's just something that I think as long as I get up before the sunrise is something that I'm not going to love. And I've been doing it for however many, multiple decades now, 3 of them actually. And I'm just like, nope, like I just can't wait for the weekend, because in the weekend I don't care how early the sun rises. Like in the summer, sunrise at like 5:30. I'm fine with that. But I just want to get up at the sunrise. So I get really frustrated getting up in the dark. I really don't like that. And that's how I start my day.
Yeah.
So it's funny. My wife gets up before me, but I walk downstairs and she's already doing schoolwork, and she's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed that early in the morning. I'm like, I am not this type of dude that's looking forward to retirement, but I really am looking forward to getting up with the sun every day of the year.
Well, the clocks will be changing soon, so
I did get one of those alarm clocks that emit light. I know the listeners of the show know this about me, but it's been a game changer. So like 30 minutes before the alarm is set to go off, it just emits a little bit of light, and it just increases slowly, almost like the sun rising. And that's been super helpful for me.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I fall asleep with an eye mask on, but at some point during the night, like I take it off because I know that I'm going to need it off for the mornings for when my light starts to light up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah, I
right.
was listening to a podcast with the fittest man on earth, and the question was, "What's the best investment you've made for under $100?" And he said, "Oh, this alarm clock that like slowly wakes you up like in your natural pace, rather than just like being dead asleep and all of a sudden here, like that's so unnatural, and it's such a better way for me." So that's one way one strategy that I've taken to overcome my frustration with getting up in the dark.
It was certainly easier when I was younger to do it. And it depends. For me, it depends how much is going on. Like I've said in previous episodes, the busier I am, the easier it is to be disciplined, because I know if I don't do it then, I won't get to it. And that's been part of my thing. Now where my kids are older and not here, it's finding other, because I had to get up because they were going to go into school, or, I had to get them to the bus, or I had to get them here or there. And if I wanted to get
that's
things.
where I'm at
Yeah.
right now at this stage in our life.
Yeah. I woke up the other morning and had this conversation with my older son, Jake. He's 24 now. And he and I talked about it last night, the night before, because we were talking about time and what he's doing with his life and professionally. And he's talking about how quick his time is. It seems like this time is going already. It's really funny you said that, Jake, because I think it was just that morning. I said, this may sound like a lot to you, I said, but in 16 years, you're going to be 40 years old. And that time is going to fly by. So focus on what you're trying to do right now, like you are, because, the older you get, the less energy you're going to have.
Yeah. A couple months ago, my daughter turned 9.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I already talk about this with you on the show?
No.
Okay. I've been sharing it with a lot of people lately. I actually don't know if I talked about this on a past episode. She's 9, which means if she leaves the house, say for college at age 18, we're already halfway there. That blows my mind. It's been like a blink of an eye. So I'm going to blink again. She's going to be 18 and out.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
You said to have fun, and a joke I tell quite often about this is, I don't think I've shared this on an episode for sure, but life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes.
But if you think about it, when you're 4 years old, a year is a quarter of your life.
Yeah.
When you're 100 years old, a year is just 1/100th. Yeah. So it actually does go by faster by those terms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
1% of your life.
Yeah. Like I remember when I was a kid, when a year felt like forever away. Now I'm like, oh, it's only a year away. That's not that far.
Yeah.
That's so wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it does. I remember when I hit 30, I could look back at 10 years and be like, my gosh, I might as well be 40. And that next 10 years to 40 went just that quick. Like, and when I was 40, I could look ahead to 60. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to be present on right now. Like these are the golden years of my life. Like my daughter still wants to spend time with me. My wife and I have our health. Our parents are functional. We can do the stuff we want to do right now. We're finally at a stage in our life where we're like, financially stable. I think I'm going to look back at this stage of my life and be like, that was a really, really awesome time. But I'll often get caught up in the day-to-day, like, oh crap, I forgot to shave yesterday. I got to shave today. And, oh, man, it's the end of the month. I got to make sure the bills are paid. And all, like, it's just this constant, and living up here in Vermont, the seasons, like, you got to make sure you get the wood in on time. You got to make sure you order the wood. You got to make sure you get the spring cleanup done in the spring. Make sure the plow's all set, for the winter, all these different things. And being present in the moment is such an important part of this process. And I think being present will also help with all the little frustrations. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up, I had a couple others that drive me nuts. Doing the dishes at night, I think it's more because I'm tired, but I've been doing as much of the dishes as I can in the morning, so I have less to do in the evening, which has been really, really helpful. Oh, and then the other part of my life, and this really ties into the conversation we have, is like I feel like there's a lack of flexibility with my daily schedule. It's like I got to be here doing this thing at this time. And as a teacher, it's like you have to be in school at 7:44 and you're there till 2:53, and block 1 ends at 36, and block 2 ends at 48, and all these different things. And it's like my life is so structured that sometimes I'm just like, I just want to be like, I just want to break free and go be young, wild, and free. Like back in the day when I was toilet paper in people's house and hearing stories about my buddy getting his head held to the amplifiers.
I've been saying it for years. Like you're saying, like, I feel like life's going 1,000 miles an hour and I can't slow it down. But when one little pebble gets in the way and messes it up, that sort of jerks into reality. And that's what I think I enjoyed about today was with that what went on in the morning. It actually slowed my day down. And I messaged a friend earlier today. What a productively relaxing day I'm having. I got laundry done because it's raining here a little bit today, and normally I'm out and about trying to run errands, and I'm like, you know what, those errands can wait. I got enough food in the house. One of the things
I've always said. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, one of the things I was going to say was you mentioned about your daughter, because being in the moment. Because I hear from my boys quite a bit. They live a ways away. I don't hear from the girls as much because it's sort of right here. But my youngest daughter, Gracie, reached out, and we actually went to dinner Saturday night. And it's like, I didn't want it to end. We had sushi, actually. You're a big sushi guy.
I am a big sushi guy. And I'm a big breakfast guy, so you covered all my favorite things right in this one episode.
So we actually went down to West Lebanon and walked through one of the stores that she likes to go to and just spent time. Because like you're talking about with your daughter now, embrace those times. Because there'll be a day, I hate to say, when you look back, it's like, wow, that really was. What I felt may have been crazy was actually a really good time in my life.
You're recognizing, the time is going by quick, and, things are happening so fast. And you can repeat something you shared in a past episode. That's totally fine. What is one strategy that you use to help keep your mind present and to kind of slow things down and to appreciate and be grateful and smell the roses for the now?
That's a really good question. I guess I've started to recognize it with the key people in my life. Often my children, my parents, but even my few close friends. Just when I think of them or when they ask for my time, to do whatever I can to give it to them, because I know there'll come a day when either they're not here or I'm not here. It's you learn too late sometimes. How what life is going and changing, and so when my son calls, or when my father sends me a text that, hey, want to go for a ride in the Jeep? I was asleep taking a nap a couple weeks ago, and he texted me that, and I missed it. So I made darn sure the next time he asked, I was ready. But it's because my parents are in their 80s. They're not getting younger. None of us are, and I think about that quite a bit. There's going to come a time when they're not there for me, and I want to make sure I'm enjoying everything I can now.
It's an awesome answer. Thank you so much.
Well, I tried to keep it fun. You wanted some fun, but light.
Make sure the people that you love know that you love them. That's a big one. You don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Well, I wrote something down here. It relates where I am in life. Middle age is when your memory is shorter, experience longer, stamina lower, and your forehead higher.
That's right. My dad always told me middle age is when you lose hair in places you want it and you grow it in places you don't.
That's why I tell people, I can grow hair, just not where I want
it. So good. My time with you, these conversations, the minutes go by so fast. I thank you so much for taking the time to chop it up and share some old stories. And hopefully the listeners just had a lighthearted listen, but also were able to take away some stuff that they might be able to apply to their lives.
I hope so.
Awesome. Speaking to our family of listeners, we so very much appreciate your ears. We thank you for your time. We are incredibly grateful for your attention. On behalf of myself and my contributing co-host, Brian Fortier, we are the School and Struggle Podcast. We are out.